Hey everybody, it's Frank from 5AM Ramen, and today I'm doing an instant ramen comparison. Expensive versus cheap. I'm gonna have to guess which one is more expensive, which one is cheaper. And this is a nod to the expensive versus cheap series on Epicurious. Big fan of that. Let's begin. Instant ramen, expensive versus cheap. Okay, so round one, packet style instant ramen. And this style was invented in 1958 by Momofuku Ando. He basically started the world of instant ramen. I'm already gonna be guessing that B is more expensive just at first glance, just the way that the noodles look. A is a little bit more old school and also looks flash fried. I think smelling that will confirm that in a moment. And you'll see that B here comes with two soup packets, whereas A only comes with one soup packet. With ramen soup, you have a lot of layers. And if the instant ramen can reflect those layers, maybe having 2 to 3 packets, it's probably gonna be fancier. You've got this oily smell, and normally with flash fried noodles, there's more fat content in them. These do not have an oily smell. Now let's talk about flash frying noodles for a second. Basically, Momofuku Ando, the inventor again of instant ramen, he decided to flash fry or deep fry the ramen noodles, extending their shelf life. Now what this does is it actually removes the moisture from the ramen noodles so you can store them for a longer period of time. These days, instead of flash frying them, what they'll do is put them through a steamer and then air dry them. This takes a little bit longer and it also costs more because you can't do it as quickly as flash frying, but you see more instant ramen manufacturers doing this. It's healthier and it also doesn't have this kind of oily quality to it. But let's see how it actually tastes. This is gonna be the biggest indicator. All right, and here they are. And for reference, I haven't had a look at the actual packets. I don't know what company this is from, what style it is. And just looking at both here, A and B, still believing the same thing. These look closer to what you're gonna have at a ramen restaurant. I think I know exactly what instant ramen this is. It's one I grew up on. Oh, smells wonderful. This smells like a shio or salt seasoned ramen, and this one a tonkotsu or pork bone based ramen. There's this rich creaminess, closer to what you'd have in an actual ramen shop. Here, I'm tasting more of just the salt. Here, I feel like besides the seasoning, there's also pork bones in the soup. And again, this one comes with 2 packets, this one comes with 1. And with those 2 packets, you will expect to have a bigger depth of flavor, and that's what I'm getting. Now on to the noodles. I'm gonna start with A. They're, quite soggy now. It's really soaking up the soup. They have a decent bite to them. They get the job done. You might remember when they were in the brick form too. Basically, they were wavy. One reason that they do this in the packaging is actually because they can put more into the packaging. If they're a little bit wavy, it's about saving space. These, on the other hand, are straight, and they already feel more like proper ramen noodles when I'm pulling them up. These ones have a much better texture. They're fighting back. You get more springiness compared to these ones, which are softer. And also because they're not flash fried, you don't get as an oily, unnatural, let's say, flavor. As much as I love this one because I grew up on it. I have enough information, I think, to make my decision. I'm sticking to my original hypothesis, and I do believe that B is gonna be the more expensive one. Let's see if I'm correct. Ta-da! And yes, I'm correct. All right. $1.23 for this packet here, $1.23, and for this one over here, it's 90 cents. So you think about it, you're getting that much more value with this one, even if you're paying just a little bit more. And don't get me wrong, I love this one too, but I think in terms of quality, both soup and noodles, better bang for your buck with this one here on the right, B. All right, so cup style instant ramen, here we go. And just first impressions wise, this cup style, the actual cup shape, is going to be probably not as expensive as this style. This style, the bowl shape, are usually fancier, more premium instant ramen. all you need to do with this one is add hot water. The toppings are already there, the soup, the noodles, everything's inside. Here, on the other hand, there's a little bit more assembling. Here you have 4 packets. 3 are actually for toppings. We've got dried vegetables, a big chunk of dried chashu pork, and also seaweed, and then 1 packet for soup. So again, when they're going to this effort to separate everything, probably gonna be a fancier one. So this cup style of instant ramen was actually invented in the 1970s, also by Nissin, who invented instant ramen. The cup shape idea was actually created in the US because they felt that customers would not be as familiar with a more bowl shape of instant ramen. The cup style stuck and even took off here in Japan, basically having the cup in one hand, chopsticks in the other. Very easy to eat on the go. Not that the bowl shape is impossible to do that, but it does require a little bit more balancing and a table does help. Gonna see if my theory is correct, basically me guessing that B is gonna be fancier based on the number of packets and also the bowl shape of it. Got a proper big chunk of chashu pork here, as well as seaweed, much bigger negi or spring onions, both green and white. Here, a little bit simpler. This is, very familiar to a lot of us. You could probably guess what brand this is. And the toppings look a little bit more manufactured. You have cube-shaped pork, for example. And I have my wife to thank for covering up the logos here, all of the branding. Thank you.
I actually had to spray paint them.
Well, you did a fantastic job. I cannot tell what they are, although I can tell from the soup just because I've eaten so much instant ramen. But that's my job, of course. Now, smell-wise, a little bit more artificial. This one doesn't smell as artificial, let's say. There's a simplicity to it, and just like in the first round when I was describing the soup, you do get the saltiness. You don't get as much depth, let's say, of flavor with the soup. There's the pull-up. They're tasty as always, but a little bit simpler as well, just like the soup. They don't fight back that much, and they're a little soft and slippery. Now, I was talking about those toppings. Here is the minced meat, or mystery meat, as they affectionately refer to it as in Japan. Yeah, it's tasty, but again, a little bit more of that artificial, let's say, flavor. We also have the signature bits of egg in here, baby shrimp. Toppings are good, but again, very simple, very basic. Okay, moving on to B. So now I know that these are both soy sauce seasoned ramen, but with this one, I'm definitely getting more of that soy sauce flavor. It's more clear and distinct. Here, it's a little bit more iffy, as tasty as it is. This is salty. This is like, okay, I'm tasting soy sauce. And in addition, you have a more deeply flavored soup. For example, there's a certain chicken bone richness that you get, the stickiness that clings to your lips a little bit. Onto the noodles. Just like before, they're pulling me down a little bit more. They're not as light, they're more dense. They're closer to proper ramen noodles. These are better quality noodles. Now they're a little bit more yellow. In instant ramen, the yellow color doesn't necessarily mean that they're better quality. The yellow color in actual ramen can actually come from wheat is interacting with kansui or alkaline mineral water. But putting that aside, sometimes in instant ramen, they will add some artificial coloring. So the yellow doesn't necessarily indicate the better quality, but I can tell you that the taste and the way they feel does. They fight back, they're more elastic, much closer to fresher ramen noodles. And last but not least, the toppings. As I talked about a little bit earlier, the one that stands out the most is this huge slab of chashu pork. And that tastes much closer to what you're having in an actual ramen shop. The shape, the flavor, the way that fattiness is there. And we have to talk about those 2 beautiful sheets of seaweed that are here. And this is something you don't get in this. And they're separated in the packets, so they maintain that dried consistency instead of just tossing everything in together in the soup. All right, the moment of truth. I'm guessing B is more expensive. Let's see if I am correct. And I am correct. $3.75 for the bowl-shaped instant ramen here, and for the cup-shaped instant ramen, $1.45. So you do pay more for this, but it's that much closer again to a ramen shop experience. Okay, final round, round 3. We just had the packet style of instant ramen, then the cup and bowl style of instant ramen. Now, this is basically what you can buy at a supermarket. And just looking at these two, this is gonna be harder because they look very similar. These are fresh ramen noodles with a little bit of preservatives, I think, to extend the shelf life. These feel great. These feel like proper fresh ramen noodles. Same thing over here. We've got more of a bright yellow here. That again is not necessarily an indication that they're better noodles. And outside of that, these are also more curly. As to the smell, they both smell similar. You have a wonderful wheat flour aroma. Now, there are 2 packets over here, whereas there's just 1 packet over here. This could be a big indication, but I'm really gonna have to try them. I was theorizing that this A is gonna be more expensive because the number of packets that were there, but outside of that, it's really hard to tell. This could be anyone's guess. They both smell like miso ramen, miso seasoned ramen. Let's see what the soup in A is all about. Oh wow, this is really lardy, super thick. There's a lot of depth with the soup, and that lardiness will remind of Sapporo style miso ramen. We've got wavy noodles. This is usually the case in Sapporo style miso ramen. The waviness of the noodles help you pick up the broth, especially when the broth is this thick. I love it. Those noodles are furiously fighting back. Good amount of firmness, and I can also feel a certain amount of elasticity. Nice elasticity with the noodles as well. Okay, moving on to B, which also smells like a miso ramen. You still have a beautiful miso flavor, but it's not as deep. And there's definitely not that much lard. Not that the lard is an indication of that, but with this one, I'm getting a little bit closer to Sapporo style miso ramen at a ramen restaurant in Sapporo. And these are more straight noodles. They're not wavy, but equally thick. These are very good too though. They also are elastic and properly firm. Judging from the soup and noodles in both of them, it's really hard to tell which one would be most expensive. I wouldn't say I'm stumped, but it's tricky. Okay, the big reveal. I am putting my money on A being more expensive, but this one was tough, but I'm still gonna say A because there's more packets, there's a little bit more of that deeper miso flavor, and also the noodles. It's just a nice touch when they've got that Sapporo style with the waves. And let's see if I am correct. So a little bit over $4 for one, whereas here, $3.60 for a pack of 3, so a little bit over $1 for one. Did you specially order these?
Yeah, I actually had to have them be sent to us from Hokkaido.
I'm guessing it's from a famous ramen shop.
Yeah, it is.
That makes more sense. Maybe because of the brand, they can charge a little bit more, because that's, yeah, $4, whereas this is just a little bit over $1. So again, 4 times more expensive. Both are excellent, of course, but sometimes when you have a great brand and a lot of recognition, you can charge that much more.
Which one would you buy?
Whew, starting to sweat here, and it's not from the soup. I think if I was very much about saving, absolutely saving money, I would say you get more, I think, out of this, given the price point. But if I wanted to splurge a little bit, and I'm like, I want to feel like I'm in Sapporo eating Sapporo miso ramen, I would get this one. So ratio-wise, I would also probably buy 4 times as much of this as I would of this one, just from a price standpoint, because this is still very tasty. But if you want a little bit better of an experience, then go for this one, which is more expensive. I hope you all enjoyed this instant ramen video, expensive versus cheap instant ramen. And if that's the case, please hit that like button and also subscribe. Thank you for watching and hope to see you in the next video. And big thanks to my wife for putting all this together. These ones have a much better texture. These ones have a much better texture. They're Thanks so much for walking. Thanks so much for walking to your supermarket to buy the instant ramen.
You're welcome.
They don't fight that back. They don't fight that back. They don't fight back that much, and they're a little soft and slippery.
You still eating?
No, I'm not.
Something related. Do you want to know what this ramen smell like?
No.